The alien queen stood in the center of the war chamber, her claws digging into the black crystal floor. Smoke still drifted in from the open hangar doors, carrying the smell of burned metal and iron fire. The battle had ended only minutes ago, but the damage was already clear. Her royal armor, worn only by queens for thousands of cycles, was cracked, burned, and partially melted along the left side. One more direct hit, and she would have died on the battlefield like any common soldier. The queen's eyes glowed with rage as she turned toward her generals. "Who touched my armor?" she roared, her voice shaking the walls. "Who dared repair it without my command?" The generals lowered their heads. None of them answered. The armor was not just protection. It was a sacred symbol of rule, grown from living metal, bonded to the royal bloodline. Even master technicians were forbidden to alter it. Only the armor itself decided when it healed, and even then it took years. Yet now, standing on her body, the armor felt different. Stronger, smoother. The pain she had felt moments ago was gone. The queen raised her arm and clenched her fist. The armor responded instantly, adjusting its balance and reinforcing stress points. That should not have been possible. The armor was ancient, proud, and slow to accept change. Her anger grew colder. "I will ask once more," she said. "Who fixed my armor?" At last, one officer stepped forward, his skin pale with fear. "Your Majesty, it was a human." The chamber went silent. "A human?" the queen repeated. "Impossible. Humans were new to the galaxy, weak bodies, short lives, useful only for basic labor and minor engineering tasks. They were tolerated because they learned fast and complained little. No human had ever been allowed near royal technology. "Bring this human to me," the queen ordered. "Alive." Guards moved quickly. Minutes later they returned, escorting a single figure between them. The human looked small in the vast chamber. He wore a stained engineer's uniform, one sleeve torn, his boots still covered in grease and ash. His hands were rough, marked with old burns and scars. He did not resist, nor did he bow. He simply stood there, eyes lifted, calm but alert. "What is your name?" the queen demanded. "Elias Ward," the human answered. His voice was steady. "Systems engineer, temporary assignment." "You repaired my armor," the queen said. "Yes," Elias replied. A low hiss spread through the chamber. Several generals stepped forward, weapons half raised. "You admit it?" the queen asked. "Yes," Elias said again. "It was damaged, I fixed it." The simplicity of the answer shocked the court. "You touched sacred royal technology," the queen said. "Technology older than your species. You had no right." Elias nodded once. "I understand your anger, but it was failing. The energy flow was unstable. If left alone, it would have collapsed during the next impact." The queen studied him closely. She expected fear. She saw none, only focus. "How," she asked slowly, "could a human understand armor grown by our ancestors?" Elias hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "I didn't try to understand it as sacred. I treated it like a system. Inputs, outputs, feedback loops. Something broken doesn't care about tradition. It only cares about function." The queen's tail lashed behind her. "You speak boldly for a creature who could be executed." Elias met her gaze. "If fixing something broken is a crime, then I accept the risk." Another alarm sounded suddenly, sharp and urgent. A tactical officer turned from his console. "Enemy scouts detected at the edge of the system," he reported. "Multiple signatures, more are coming." The generals began shouting orders. The war was not over. The queen looked down at her armor again. She could feel it reacting to the distant threat, adjusting power levels, tightening around her core. It felt ready. She turned back to the human. "Leave us," she told the court. The generals hesitated, then obeyed. Soon only the queen, her two personal guards, and Elias remained. "You will explain everything you did," the queen said. Slowly, Elias took a breath. "Your armor was built to adapt, but its learning layers were locked behind rigid protocols. Over time, those protocols became limits. I didn't remove them, I reorganized them. Explain, the Queen said. Humans learned long ago that systems fail when they are too proud to change, Elias said. So we build flexibility. I allowed your armor to question its own decisions, to choose better responses instead of repeating old ones. The Queen felt a strange sensation ripple through the armor, as if it agreed. This armor has served my line for centuries, she said. It has never failed. It almost did today, Elias replied quietly. Silence filled the chamber. At last the Queen spoke. You will remain under guard. You will not touch any system unless commanded. Yes, your Majesty, Elias said. As the guards led him away, the Queen watched him carefully. She had expected arrogance, fear, or deception. She saw none of those. Only a human who saw problems and refused to ignore them. The next battle came sooner than expected. Enemy forces breached the outer defense line within hours. The Queen took to the battlefield again, her fleet forming around her flagship. Explosions lit the void as ships were torn apart. She charged forward, leading the attack herself. Enemy fire struck her directly. Once, twice, 3 times. The armor absorbed the blows, shifting energy in ways it had never done before. The Queen felt the impacts, but they did not slow her. She struck back, tearing through enemy vessels with precision and speed. Her commanders watched in disbelief. The Queen was faster, stronger, smarter. Then a concentrated beam struck her chest. The armor flared, systems screaming warnings through her mind. The Queen staggered but did not fall. In the control chamber, Elias felt the vibration through the deck. He looked up sharply. That was too much, he muttered. Ignoring the guards' protests, he rushed to a nearby console and began typing commands. The system resisted him at first, then paused. He whispered, almost kindly, "You can do better than this." The armor responded. On the battlefield, the Queen felt the strain ease. Power rerouted, damage stabilized. The armor learned. The enemy commander realized something was wrong. Their weapons were no longer effective. Every attack was answered, countered, adapted against. Fear spread through the enemy fleet. The Queen did not know how or why, but she knew one thing clearly. The human had not just fixed her armor, he had awakened it. And as the war raged on, the galaxy took its first step toward understanding a dangerous truth. When humans repaired something, it never returned to what it was before. The Queen's flagship floated amid the chaos of battle, its hull scarred by laser fire and ion blasts. Around her, the fleet was in disarray. Enemy warships darted in unpredictable patterns, striking from multiple angles. Her royal armor, repaired by the human, absorbed hit after hit, but even living metal had limits. She could feel the energy being rerouted inside the armor, shields flaring and failing, systems screaming under stress. Yet somehow the armor held, reacting faster than she thought possible. In the command deck, Elias Ward crouched over the system consoles. Sweat ran down his brow despite the cool, recycled air. Every alarm that sounded was a challenge, every spike in energy a puzzle to solve. The human's tools were crude compared to the alien technology around him, but Elias had an instinct for adaptation that no alien protocols had ever anticipated. "Your Majesty," one of the royal officers shouted, "they're targeting your wing now. We can't hold them off." The Queen's tail lashed behind her in frustration. "Then adjust our formations, protect the fleet." Her voice echoed with authority, but she knew the armor alone could not manage every variable. It needed him. Elias' fingers moved in rapid, precise patterns over the interface. He bypassed safety protocols, rerouted energy flows, and rewrote adaptive subroutines in real time. Each change made the armor stronger, more responsive, more alive. The Queen could feel it adjusting with a speed and intelligence far beyond anything she had ever commanded. It was as if the armor itself recognized the human inside the system, and together they became something greater. The flagship's sensors alerted her to a strike group moving behind the fleet, attempting to flank them. Alien captains shouted for orders, confusion and panic spreading quickly. The queen gritted her teeth. She could not let them break through, not while Elias was inside the armor systems, guiding it. "Human," she said, speaking through the armor's internal comm, "what are you doing now?" "I'm stabilizing the rear shield array and synchronizing it with your movement patterns," Elias replied. "If you can maneuver closer, the enemy fire will begin to cancel itself." The queen's claws dug into her console. "Explain clearly, human." "The armor can analyze the trajectory of incoming fire," Elias said. "If we redirect the energy through adjacent shields, the beams can interfere with each other. I need you to follow my direction precisely." She hesitated, then nodded. The armor adjusted instantly, thrusters firing, shields flaring in a perfectly timed sequence. Enemy fire struck, but instead of tearing through, the beams collided, scattering harmlessly into space. The fleet held. Even the alien commanders who had doubted humans for decades began to whisper. The queen saw their astonishment mirrored in their eyes. They had underestimated Elias and, in turn, underestimated what humans could do. Hours passed in a blur. The enemy was relentless, each wave more aggressive than the last. Still, the queen and her human engineer worked as one. The armor moved like a living being, dodging attacks, striking back, stabilizing the fleet and repairing itself when possible. Elias continued to adapt the systems on the fly, learning enemy patterns, predicting strikes before the aliens even realized them. At one point, an enemy destroyer broke through the outer fleet and fired a concentrated plasma torpedo at the flagship. The queen braced herself, but she did not panic. Elias acted before she could react, rerouting energy from the secondary shields into the armor's core and creating a localized counterfield. The torpedo exploded harmlessly against the reinforced armor. The queen's eyes narrowed. She had been in hundreds of battles before, but never had she felt such synergy with her equipment. The human was not just helping. He was leading the armor's intelligence, guiding it in ways no alien could conceive. She realized, with a mix of admiration and disbelief, that humans were unpredictable in the most dangerous ways. They did not rely on tradition or hierarchy. They relied on observation, logic, and improvisation. But the battle was far from over. Enemy reinforcements arrived, larger and faster than before. Their weapons were more deadly, their formations designed to overwhelm by sheer numbers. The flagship shuddered as multiple volleys hit, the living metal armor stretching to its limits. Systems flickered and alarms blared across the control deck. Elias' hands moved faster than ever. His mind raced, calculating, improvising, adapting. "I need direct access to the core processing nodes," he muttered. "It's the only way to stabilize the armor fully." The queen considered protesting. Direct access meant bypassing layers of royal safeguards, risking catastrophic failure if he miscalculated. But hesitation would mean death. She nodded once. "Do it." With a series of precise commands, Elias integrated himself fully with the armor systems. For a moment, he became a part of it. The queen could feel the difference instantly. The armor's reactions became instantaneous, defensive protocols and offensive maneuvers perfectly synchronized. Together, they were unstoppable. The enemy commander, sensing defeat, ordered a full retreat. Enemy ships tried to flee, but the queen and her armor moved like a predator. They pursued, striking decisively, exploiting every weakness in the enemy formation. Within hours, the battlefield was quiet. The human engineer had not only repaired the armor, he had turned it into a weapon the enemy could not comprehend. After the battle, the queen summoned Elias to her personal quarters. She expected fear, subservience, or excuses. She found none. He simply stood, tired but composed, ready to explain every action he had taken. "Your Majesty," he said, "the armor is more stable now. It learned from the enemy's tactics and can continue to adapt, but it won't remain this way unless someone continues to guide it. The queen studied him. She had faced many enemies, survived countless battles, but nothing had prepared her for this. A human engineer, calm under fire, reshaping technology that had been sacred for millennia. "You are not like any human I have known," she said softly. "You think differently, you do not fear mistakes, you see patterns we ignore, you fix what others cannot." Elias shrugged. "I just do what makes sense. Things should work, people should survive, that's enough." The queen considered this. Perhaps there was wisdom in simplicity. Perhaps humans were dangerous not because of strength or weapons, but because they could challenge traditions that had remained unbroken for centuries. "Then you will remain with me," she said finally. "Not as a servant, not as a soldier, but as my engineer. You will guide my armor, help my fleet, and teach those willing to learn. But be warned, one mistake and the consequences will be yours." "I understand, Your Majesty," Elias said. The queen nodded. For the first time, she felt something she had not known in cycles: curiosity, respect, and cautious hope. A human had entered her life and changed it forever. As they looked out across the recovering fleet, the queen realized that the war had revealed more than enemy weakness. It had revealed the potential of humanity, their ingenuity, their courage, and their ability to adapt in ways no alien had imagined. Elias smiled faintly. He had not sought recognition. He had only done his job, but now he was more than an engineer. He was a symbol, the proof that humans could challenge the impossible, fix the unfixable, and turn the tide when all hope seemed lost. The queen did not speak again for a long moment. She simply stood, armor still humming with life, watching the stars where the enemy had fled. Somewhere in her mind a question formed, a question she would ask again and perhaps never forget. Who truly fixed my armor? And the answer, she knew, would change the galaxy forever. The flagship moved through the debris of the battlefield, engines humming softly despite the damage it had sustained. The enemy had fled, but the war was not over. Reinforcements were coming from beyond the sector, faster and stronger than anything the queen had ever faced. Yet the queen felt no fear. The armor, repaired and enhanced by the human, was more than protection. It was alive, and now it carried Elias Ward's ingenuity inside it. Elias sat at the console, his hands moving constantly over the interface, monitoring systems and adapting algorithms. His connection with the armor was now more than digital. The living metal responded to his thoughts as if he were part of it. Each adjustment he made improved energy distribution, reinforced shielding, and optimized movement. Every strike, every evasive maneuver in battle now had his touch. The queen walked beside him, her tail lashing in thought. She had faced death countless times, yet never had she felt the armor respond with such intelligence. She had believed in her own skill and her lineage, but now she realized that humanity offered something different: creativity without boundaries, logic without pride, and courage without fear. "Human," she said, voice quiet but firm, "we are being tracked. Scouts report enemy fleets approaching rapidly. They know we survived the last engagement. They will aim to finish what they started." Elias nodded. "I've been analyzing their patterns. They are predictable when they think we cannot respond. If we act first, we can turn the trap against them." The queen raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "Your armor can serve more than as personal protection. It can act as a fleet coordinator. If I integrate their targeting data into the armor, it can redirect our energy shields and coordinate attacks in real time. Your command will be unstoppable." The queen considered the risk. Using the armor in this way meant bending traditions, violating rules that had been in place for millennia. It was unprecedented, but hesitation would mean destruction. She gave a single nod. "Do it." Elias' fingers flew over the console. Streams of data, complex and alien, flowed across the interface. The armor began to hum with new energy, a rhythm that matched Elia's focus. The queen felt the difference immediately. The armor's movements became fluid, its strength multiplied, its ability to adapt faster than she could command. As enemy fleets approached, the flagship surged forward. The queen raised her claws, directing the first strike. The armor moved perfectly with her intent, guiding fleet formations and anticipating enemy maneuvers. Beam volleys struck, only to be deflected or canceled through careful redirection. The enemy was stunned. Every tactic they had used in previous battles now failed against this new precision. From the bridge, the alien commanders whispered among themselves. "How is this possible?" one of them said. "The armor alone cannot perform this well." The queen remained silent, eyes fixed on the approaching enemy. She did not need to explain. The answer was standing beside her, human, small, but capable of seeing and shaping possibilities no alien mind had conceived. Enemy warships fired a concentrated attack, aiming directly at the flagship. The queen felt the impact, vibrations running through her bones. The armor strained under the force, but Elia's acted faster. Systems bypassed safety limits, energy rerouted instantly, shields flared and adapted mid-strike. The flagship shuddered, then emerged unscathed. The enemy commander realized the danger too late. Their attacks were no longer effective. Each maneuver was countered before it could be executed. Their fleet began to falter. Panic spread, then chaos. The queen pressed her advantage. With the armor enhancing her speed and strength, she led a decisive strike at the enemy flagship. The attack was precise, overwhelming, and unstoppable. The enemy vessel shattered under the assault, debris scattering across the void. The rest of their fleet retreated, unable to maintain formation under the relentless pressure. After the battle, silence fell. The queen stood at the edge of her flagship, looking at the scattered remnants of the enemy. She felt a mixture of relief and astonishment. The armor, once sacred and fragile, had become a weapon of unimaginable power. Yet it was not just the armor, it was Elia's, human ingenuity inside it, guiding it in ways the galaxy had never imagined. She called for him. Elia stepped forward, exhaustion clear in his posture but his eyes steady. "Your Majesty," he said, "the armor is stable. Systems are optimized. We can continue to adapt if more threats appear." The queen studied him carefully. "You have done more than repair. You have improved it beyond anything we thought possible. You have changed the outcome of this war." Elias shrugged. "I did what made sense. The armor was broken, I fixed it, that's all." The queen shook her head. "It is never just all with humans. You do not see limits as final. You do not fear failure. You act and you learn and you adapt. You see what others cannot." For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Then the queen spoke again, her voice quiet but resolute. "You will remain with me, not as a servant, not as a tool. You are my engineer, my advisor, my partner in battle. If you refuse, you will leave the armor vulnerable and the fleet at risk." "I accept," Elia said simply. The queen studied him. For the first time, she saw not a human of labor and weakness, but a being of rare courage and skill. Humans, she realized, were unpredictable and dangerous, but in a way that could protect and empower her empire. As the flagship returned to the fleet, the queen reflected on the lessons of the battle. The galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries. Weak bodies, short lifespans, and simple tools had led other species to dismiss them. But humans were not limited by what they had. They adapted. They improvised. They learned faster than anyone expected. The queen's personal guards, who had doubted Elias at first, now looked at him with a mix of respect and fear. He was small, fragile in appearance, yet his mind and instincts had saved the queen, the armor, and the fleet. Later, in the quiet of the flagship's command chamber, the queen spoke again, almost to herself. "Who fixed my armor?" Elias looked up from his console. "I did, Your Majesty, and it's still learning." The queen nodded. She understood now that the answer was more than a simple statement. Humans fixed more than machinery. They fixed problems others considered unsolvable. They adapted, they created, and they surprised. Across the galaxy, the battle was being reported. Other species whispered about the human engineer who had turned the tide of war. Few could understand it fully. They saw a small, seemingly ordinary being achieve extraordinary feats. But the Queen knew the truth. Humans were unpredictable, relentless, and capable of greatness beyond measure. The enemy would return someday, stronger and more cunning. But the Queen did not fear them. With Elias at her side, her armor was more than a shield. It was a testament to human ingenuity, a living example of what her empire could achieve when it embraced the unexpected. The Queen turned toward Elias. "You are more than a human to me. You are proof. Proof that weakness is only an appearance and strength is in the mind and the will. Together, we have changed the outcome of this war, and together we will face whatever comes next." Elias nodded. "I am ready, Your Majesty." As the stars stretched endlessly beyond the flagship's viewports, the Queen realized something profound. The galaxy had underestimated humans, and in doing so, they had underestimated the future. One small human had changed the course of history, and countless more would follow. The Queen looked at her repaired armor, shining under the distant starlight, and then at Elias. She smiled, a rare and genuine expression. "You fixed my armor, but in doing so you have fixed much more than that. You have fixed our way of thinking and perhaps the galaxy itself." Elias allowed himself a small smile. He had not sought glory. He had only done what he knew was right. But now, in the quiet aftermath of victory, he understood the impact of his actions. Humans could face impossible odds, adapt in ways others could not, and survive when all hope seemed lost. And as the Queen and her human engineer stood together on the command deck, watching the stars, the galaxy itself seemed to shift. One small species, underestimated and dismissed, had proven that courage, ingenuity, and the refusal to accept limits could change everything. The Queen's voice broke the silence again, firm and resolute. "Remember this, Elias. Not because you are human, but because you are extraordinary. Together, we will face whatever comes next, and the galaxy will never underestimate humans again." Elias nodded. "I understand, Your Majesty, and I will be ready." The stars stretched infinitely before them, a silent witness to the promise of the future. The armor, repaired and enhanced, pulsed gently as if acknowledging the partnership between human and Queen. The war was won, but a greater story had begun. The story of humanity, their courage, their intelligence, and the unyielding spirit that no alien could ever ignore. For the first time, the Queen truly understood what humans could accomplish, and she knew the galaxy would remember.